It's a water bottle.
Oh wow.
It's very cute. And also it has that one design that almost is like exactly like what one of our original logo designs look like for the
Yeah.
studio.
A good mustache. Devlog number one.
Let's
I
chat
don't
about things. I'm Lauren. I am one of the pair of co-founders of Daruma Games.
I'm Simon. I'm the other half of Durham Games. I'm sort of the main engineer and technical director on the project. I've written most of the code. Yeah, I sort the ones and zeros.
I also started in the industry as an engineer, but I think throughout the course of this project, I've slowly and slid into wearing a bunch of different hats that like I've never had to wear before, and I sometimes hope other people don't have to wear because of how deadly these hats are. I mean, everything from like marketing stuff, business stuff, art, tons of things that aren't engineering that is required for a game to actually function. And we're going to talk about what Soulmates actually is. So to start with, I always have to explain first, it's Soulmates with like an SOL because it's a pun, and it's a great visual pun. When you first see it, you're like, oh, I get it, it's Soulmates. But then like when you say it, people are like, oh, okay, it's just a game called like Soulmates, like SOUL, Soulmates. And then you're like, well, hold on, we're not a game about finding love, or I mean, maybe you could, but we're more a game about space exploration. Oh my god, I get it.
Soulmates is a up to 4-player cooperative chaotic sort of spaceship management game where you and all your friends just gotta keep your spaceship flying. You have to charge the batteries and man the guns and load your weapons and sort of keep all your systems up and running while you're dodging enemy blasts and dealing with asteroids.
Soulmates is the game where we try to replicate all the chaotic moments that you see in these space dramas, like the shields are down.
The shield is down. Commence attack on the Death Star's main reactor.
Like instead of it just being a narrative moment that happens for you, it's a piece, like a literal moment that we're trying to actualize for you.
Oh, yeah.
Like someone's going to need to literally plug a battery from the charger, plunk it into the shields to like make sure that it continues recharging. Like someone else is going to need to put out the fires that this whole system failure has caused and is slowly spreading. Someone else needs to go wake up the guy that's just chilling in the corner because they forgot what's going on and don't know what the hell's happening. And then the last person needs to make sure that whoever caused their shields to go down in the first place is dealt with, maybe with cannons, maybe with missiles, maybe with whatever it may be.
Count me in.
I'm a huge sci-fi and space things fan, and so this idea of like and I'm a huge co-op, Lauren and I both are huge co-op gaming fans, and so this idea of like working together to run a spaceship was really appealing when Lauren came up with this, and this idea that we can layer on replayability and a little bit of like narrative and storytelling to like give you a setting and give you choices and things to coordinate with your friends and things to argue about with your friends and decisions to make. It just like it sounded like an experience that I wanted to have while playing a game, and there wasn't anything quite out there that nailed that.
Well, maybe I should do that then.
Maybe you should.
Okay,
Good.
fine.
Hey! What do you two think you're doing? Fighting at a time like this. You use up all the air.
And I think the other fun thing is like this, like originally when I pitched this game to you, it was probably like 8 years ago at this point, if I count correctly, or maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And like we only started making this thing like a couple years ago, like 2 years ago. So like why such a long gap? And I think one of the things is obviously everyone has their own kind of like things going on in life, but we also had a very large life altering event for all of humanity going on the planet for the last couple of years. And so like coming out of the pandemic, like I think like there was a particular need for Simon, I think for many gamers in the world to like just like reconnect with their fellow human beings. It's just like everyone's been stuck at home for way too long.
I guess I just miss my friend.
I think that also really pushed us to like want to like focus on like creating like a co-op gaming experience that like allowed people to get back together again.
We're putting the band back together.
Going to the early concept art phase of this game and how we ended up deciding like what we wanted the eventual game to look like, we definitely started by figuring out how to talk to artists.
You talking to me? You talking to me? Well, then who the hell else are you talking? You talking to me?
I think Simon and I are both, kind of from an engineering background. So, like, we love our artists, like all like so many amazing artists that we worked with over the years, but we're not artists ourselves. And so, like, at a certain point, we're like, we need to understand, like, how do we communicate, like, a feeling to, like, someone that can actually, like, draw and create that, like, thing on paper and then, like, make it into something that exists. And so, like, there's definitely a big learning process where, like, everything from, like, mood boards to, like, finding like references and all that stuff that we had to learn how to do.
Is art!
It's supposed to be a funny game. It's supposed to be a game where you laugh. So I think, like, going with, like, a cute sci-fi design definitely was just, like, there definitely were multiple documents that were made that just had, like, the word cute.
The visual look for the game started with the player. It was the first thing. We were like, what is your basic astronaut gonna look like? And our concept artists we're working with did a whole bunch of concepts, and we came up with this guy. And sort of once we had him, it was like, all right, this is the game. This is this sort of, like, round, a little bit scruffy, a little bit unpolished, is like that's the world we live in. And I think once we had that, sort of how everything else was going to look like definitely grew from there. But just establishing that our one little astronaut was, like, a big step.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
So in terms of how we built the game, it was all what we call gray box. It was all gray cubes and spheres and simple stuff for a very long time, for, like, the first 6 months or so, I think. It was quite a while before we even had, like, a character that walked, and then that first character was very, very low poly, simple astronaut that we didn't replace with our cute little bean-shaped astronaut for quite a while. And it was a lot of just, like, blocking things out, trying things, moving them around, building tools that let us customize the, like, layouts of spaceships, trying different enemy mechanics, different like layouts of weapons, and then the, like, nitty-gritty of, like, how things interact with each other. Like, what does it actually mean to, like, put a piece of ammo into a weapon? Can you fire it immediately? Does it need time to load? Can you load it when it has power? How does power even work and transfer between things? And so, yeah, a lot of playing around with that. And what I'm trying to remember is, like, the first time the game was fun, because you kind of go through, like just simple tech tests, like, can you pick a thing up and put it in somewhere? Can you fire a gun and it shoots an enemy? And then you start building out systems, and then usually there's a point where the first time where you sort of, like, forget you're, like, making the game, and you're just like, no, let's try that again. Like, that, we almost beat that guy. Let's do it again. And I think it was around the time when we had, like, shields and ammo and power and enemies and steering. Like, we sort of had all of those pieces. And then we also started adding other stuff you would have to deal with, because we added, like, solar flares that would, like, light parts of your ship on fire, and energy storms that would discharge your batteries. And sort of once a lot of that stuff started coming together, was when it started getting, like, actually pretty exciting to play.
This is fun. We're having fun.
Technically, making a multiplayer, like an online multiplayer game, is not easy. And just, like, getting everything to connect and sync between the server. I mean, we weren't going to give up or anything, but, like knowing we had to start from that point meant there was a very early prototype of the game that I built, with just the basic picking things up and putting them down mechanics, and I had to completely scrap that because it wasn't going to work with multiplayer. So that was a challenge, and it, like, continues to be a challenge. We're constantly running into, like, right now there's a thing in the lobby where if one player switch characters while holding something, then the thing they're holding disappears, but just for them, and everybody else can still see it. So there's, like, weird network sync issues like that are always going to be a challenge.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
Let's tear
gameplay wise, I think the system we've had to like rework the most is how ammunition works. We know there needs to be ammo. We know there needs to be special kinds of ammo so that you can like upgrade your systems. For a while, like what a piece of ammo was and what its special effect was were like two different things that you both had to load into a weapon. But like that doesn't like make sense. Like it's hard to explain. For a while we had different colored ammo and different colored enemies. You had to shoot the right enemy with the right color, but that also was like interesting, but like felt too much like a puzzle game.
Puzzling. Winston is about to do some puzzling.
So we scrapped that. And then like for a long time, like one ammo was one bullet, but then we added a ray gun which shoots a continuous beam. So now like that connection had to be broken. And so like I think the system that like has given us the most challenge has just been like that core, because it is very core to the game. It's just like picking up a piece of ammo, loading it into a gun and firing it. But the specifics of like what that does has been majorly rewritten, I think 2 or 3 times now, and like just gets tweaked every time we do an update.
Almost there.
We just announced at the PC Gaming Show, which has been like super exciting, and sort of up until now, like we've been working on this for a while, but sort of only recently we finally started getting in sort of the look of the game and some of our finalized art, and so it's really neat just to have something where we can like point at this thing and be like, look, this is the thing we're making. Like it's cool, it's fun, it's so full of explosions and fire and lasers. And it's just really, really neat to like finally show it to our friends, our colleagues, fans, and just the public in general, and be like, look at this thing we're making, and like I cannot wait for people to play it.
It's definitely, like the most exciting announcement I've ever been part of. And like we all got online wherever we happened to be at that point, and we all managed to, watch the same moment together where they got to play our trailer that we worked very hard on. Which, yeah, it's definitely a very surreal experience. We finished announcing the game. There's still a lot more to do. I think one of the toughest challenges, like for indies, and like like this is definitely not something that Simon and I were prepared for. Like starting out this whole thing is like, game development is a whole thing. It's not just making the game, and we're getting to the point where like there's enough of the game to show that like it's also about making sure that people know that the game exists. Like people can have channels to like talk to us and be like, yo, I like this thing and I don't like this thing, and so like like gathering feedback and all that stuff. And so like I think our next big step for the game is going to be like working on a demo. And so I think one of the big challenges for us coming up is going to be just making sure that the whole user experience is clear. Like Simon and I have lived and breathed this game for 2 years, so like we don't need tutorials for this thing. But like like recently we've started demoing the game at the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment in Oakland, and like like seeing all these new people put their hands on the game first time, like yeah, it's a tough learning curve. So like making sure that we have our tutorials in place, making sure that our main menu looks amazing for people, because it's just a black screen with text on it right now. Like there's so much work to be done there before the game is even presentable in the first place. And then above and beyond that, there's like a lot of gameplay things to make sure that we have like things that just have been temp for many months, more than a year. Like like these things need to get finalized, and it's so easy to just be like, oh yeah, like I'll get around to it at some point. But like when you're like actually commit to getting something done, like that maybe someday has to become like when.
It's time to add more sound effects and music to the game is like one of the bigger interesting technical things that's on my list to do.
Slap at the bass, mama. Slapping the bass, mama.
There you go.
There's this mysterious unknown step of going from like we're just 2 people working on this thing to like having a community, right? Like at a certain point, like if people listen to this and like they are curious about things, and they start engaging us in questions and like stuff like that, like it's not so formal as like like, oh, we gotta do a Reddit AMA so that we can like collate all these questions. It's just like I'm very curious, like what kind of questions do people come up with when they hear a concept like this? Do they care? Are they curious about like the game development side of the things? Are they curious about like what it's like to be two indie devs living in San Francisco. It's like, you know, like there's a, a whole universe of just questions about what questions they have that I have.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
We're Soulmates, SOLMATES. Find us on Steam. Please wishlist us. It means everything to small indie developers. It's how we get more people to see and find our game on Steam, which means hopefully you'll have more friends to go on space adventures with. Besides that, we are on many of the social things, either Soulmates or Daruma Games. That's us. But yeah, find us where you build your online communities, and we will be there, and we are excited to share the game with you.